coast, it's very humid.
Yeah, that's something I'm not really fond of is heat and humidity, not things I'm really fond of. But this is a frustrating time of year because one day you need a no jacket, the next day you need a light jacket, then you're back to heavy jacket, then it's back to no. It's like, what do we wear?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have started the recording. We are good to go.
Are you? Okay. Okay. Let's start. I think quite a few number of people have joined. So good afternoon, everyone who have joined. Welcome to the 6th episode of SCM Talk Show, Season 5. So we completed 4 seasons and this is the 5th season. The last episode was on how cloud and SaaS can transform supply chain management. And the title of this episode, I think is going to be very interesting for all of you, is going to be workforce development for an efficient supply chain. So this topic has been chosen, as per our practice to tap experience of the speaker. And as usual, this session also will be recorded and made available for free on KnoWerX mobile app as well as our YouTube channel. Like our earlier practice, we are putting everyone on the listen-only mode. And like all our previous times, please submit your questions in the chat box. We will take few most asked questions at the end of the session if time permits. So it's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Maryanne Ross. Maryanne is a long-time member colleague of mine at the Apex ASCM, and she is the co-founder of Supply Chain Mavens Inc. Supply Chain Mavens consults and trains with small, medium, and Fortune 500 size companies to provide an understanding of industry best practices and to guide their teams through the implementation process. So she is a very, very senior, professional, I would say trainer, instructor, consultant, and I think very, very admired one. So she's a master instructor for almost all courses of Apex and ASCM. And she prides herself in an extensive knowledge, experience, and professionalism in all aspects of supply chain management, coupled with her passion in engaging her clients with their teams in educating design to meet specific needs. And she has a very unique style of training with a lot of fit gates and so on that I have observed. Yeah. So she's a very highly accomplished, admired, and very busy instructor. I mean, really, she's a very busy instructor. She travels a lot. I think she travels all over the US and sometimes, outside the US, and she's a very, very busy instructor. And I would say it's we are fortunate that we could find her time. Yeah. So on the personal front, I think she's very multi-talented individual, and I see her doing lots and lots of activities. She's very health conscious, eats very selectively. She walks every day, treks, jogs. She does gardening. She cooks. She spends time with her grandchildren, looks after a dog. So I think she does a lot of activities. I mean, very, very interesting personality. And I mean, I really take inspiration from her of what all things she can pack in a day. It's very difficult for me to, have that kind of an energy that she has. And she has been volunteer leader for Apex for more than 28 years. And she's also been on the Apex board of directors. So, I mean, it's very difficult to introduce Maryanne Ross, very, very difficult. So I'm sure I missed many more achievements of hers.
Yeah.
And anything I missed, Maryanne, I mean, please add to anything that I missed.
No, Ravi, you did a wonderful job. It was probably too much. I think I'm most thankful for my time on the Apex Board of Directors because that's how I met you.
Yeah.
And you were kind enough to escort me around Mumbai, and I still remember the
Oh,
things we
yes.
talked about, the things that we saw.
Yeah.
It was a most wonderful trip for me, and I've always appreciated having that opportunity.
And you
And
are
thank you
most
for
welcome
inviting me.
back. You're most welcome back. I think I would love to have you, love to host you once more, and many, many more times, in fact, in Mumbai when you have an opportunity. And that will be really
I,
wonderful. So we'll enjoy that. We'll enjoy that.
and now I enjoy watching your family growing.
Yeah.
And all of the activities associated with your family, your young grandchildren. It's been
Thank
fun.
you.
It's been
Thank
wonderful to
you.
have that connection around the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So thanks, Maryanne. Thanks a lot for accepting our invitation to share your experience, your insights to our listeners. And I would like to especially thank you for taking time out of a busy schedule. I know you are a very, very busy person, and in getting up so early for this talk show. I think it's about 5:30 a.m.
It is. It
Very,
is.
yeah,
It's 5:30. Yep.
yeah,
Yep. It wasn't a
5:30
problem. I promise you it was not. I always
a.m.
look forward to talking with you, seeing you, and I'm an
Oh
early
my
riser
God. Oh my
anyway,
God.
so
Yeah. Yeah. Nice to see you again. Nice to hear your voice. It's so uh so interesting. So I think what I'll do is, without wasting your time, your precious time, I want you to talk more. So let me come to today's topic directly on workforce development. So let me open our discussion by asking you, what convinces you that workforce development is so critical?
it's a great question, Ravi. It's talking with individuals and companies and realizing that while they're very engaged in their own business, they're sometimes not aware of the changes in the world around them relative to supply chain and best practices. And it's by virtue of those best practices that organizations can increase their competitive advantage and increase their productivity, reduce their cost. And that's how organizations not just survive, but thrive in this busy, volatile world that we find ourselves in. So it's that workforce development that's going to enable them to meet the needs and the challenges of today's marketplace.
Great, great, great. So there are a lot of events, worldwide. I just want you to talk about worldwide events that drive companies to recognize an increasing need for development of workforce. There are a lot of changes which are happening worldwide. So can you talk on that, some of those?
I can. It's one of the reasons that I love supply chain so much is that the world around us just continues to change, right? Good things, bad things happen every single day. COVID, of course, totally disrupted the world and supply chain. And I think that in some cases, companies are still trying to completely recover. And then on top of that, every day there's something new and different natural disasters. If I go back 20 years ago, we weren't so aware of what was happening somewhere else in the world because we weren't as connected. The internet, global supply chains weren't so prevalent. So something could happen in a faraway country that didn't affect us. Today, there's that almost immediate ripple impact of anything that happens anywhere in the world is very likely to impact your business, your supply chain. So there's the natural disasters, the political unrest. We have the couple of wars going on in the world right now. The United States just went through a rather interesting election process. There's many of my students in classes now are telling me about how they're beginning to grapple with the risk that there will be tariffs that will be imposed. And we've been having lots of discussions this week about what do companies do? How are they going to rethink their procurement to alleviate the potential of higher costs on their raw materials? So there's just a couple of the things that are, come to my mind immediately, in addition to all of the changes in technology.
Yeah,
Right?
that's all
All
very
of the
true. So what else comes to your mind in terms of
Well,
technology, other
when I
things?
start to think about those other challenges, companies grapple with the concepts of, do we automate processes? What impact will that have on the workforce? There is the embracing of artificial intelligence, blockchain, Internet of Things. These technologies have a wonderful place in helping our companies become more competitive, and again, reduce their cost and be more efficient. But there's the knowledge associated with using those technologies and change management, getting employees to embrace new technologies. These are the things that companies, my clients, my students, my classes talk about all the time as being both exciting and challenging.
And what internal challenges you think require companies to develop their workforce?
Well, that's a whole other thing. We've been talking about the external environments, but then there's internal things that come up, and people tell me that here, I don't know if it's true in your country, but here in the United States, the big concern is the aging of the workforce. People our age who are, and even slightly younger, because I should have been gone from the workplace a long time ago, except I love what I do too much to quit. But I hear people telling me that workers are aging out. They're embracing the concept of staying home and gardening and retiring and traveling the world. And so companies have to deal with not just that physical loss of that person, right? But all of the knowledge that they had, all of those years of experience, that's not something that can be replaced easily or quickly. So companies really need to be thinking about this in advance of that aging out, so that they can, again, begin to train people to have the skills that are going to be necessary today and into the future.
So are there any other internal factors too, apart from
There is.
aging?
There's one more thing that comes up often, Ravi, and this is interesting to me, because if you remember when we were young and in the workforce, it was highly prized that you stay in a job, that you don't switch companies, that you join a company and you're there for the remainder of your career. It's interesting when students tell me that now their universities, their colleges are basically encouraging them to change jobs every 3 to 5 years, to be seen as being more aggressive, more, not aggressive in a bad way, but more interested in building a career. And so now what do companies do when they're faced with those issues, that not only do they have aging workers retiring, what about when these individuals that have been with them for 3 to 5 years decide to switch and jump to another company? Again, they're starting over again with having to train workers and replace that knowledge.
You have hit the nail, Maryanne. You hit the nail. So I think the turnover of the workforce is so much nowadays. And again, you have to retrain people. And by the time they come to join the company and become productive, takes little time.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge.
The other thing
Uh,
that's happening since COVID is the people working more remotely. So
mhm.
remote workers aren't in the office. They're not engaging with their colleagues. So they're not learning as much from them as they might have when it was all face to face. And they're lacking interpersonal skills, not just the technical skills, but the ability to problem solve, to get to, do a root cause analysis under a problem. So these are all challenges that point towards the need for more and new education.
So how can HR department assist, these managers in determining what type of workforce development is required?
Yeah, I think that HR really plays a key role in this entire process, but I think that management has to help HR initially by inviting them into, for instance, the sales and operations planning process, so that HR folks have a better understanding of what are the challenges out on the shop floor, in logistics, in procurement, what new products are being developed, what new processes are being developed, which of these technologies that we've just been talking about are going to be embraced, so that they have a better understanding of what are the skill sets necessary in hiring new people. That's one thing, right? But also, what are the skill sets that need to be developed in the existing workforce? So HR has to have a better understanding of the challenges of supply chain in order to be thinking about the ideal candidate of the future. I go back again to our age, early on, HR would look for a person that had a particular skill set, a particular discipline. Now what we need to embrace is the concept of workers with more of a holistic view of the entire supply chain and what role they play in that supply chain.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. HR also need to be aware what this domain, supply chain domain is all about, and what kind of training people need. So they need to be also a little bit aware. Sometimes because of lack of their knowledge, they really do not know the what requirement and why and why. So that is very, very important. Yeah. So do you think providing supply chain training to employees, HR employees, would help? I think,
I
yeah.
think so, and I think from your expression on your face, you probably do as well, right? It
Yes,
was
yes.
really interesting to me.
Yeah.
About maybe 8 years ago, I was hired by a company to do some lean training, and they wanted everybody in the company, everybody was going to be required to take this 4-hour training and just key concepts of lean. And the HR folks just were so excited. They were telling me about, how much they were learning and how interested. One said to me, I thought all of that stuff you guys do over there in manufacturing, and I thought that was all boring stuff, but this is really interesting. And that really caused me to realize that this was absolutely important for a company that they don't maybe need a whole certification. They don't need to go through years of education, but a little bit can go a long way in helping them understand how to source the right employees and what vital role they play in enabling an organization to advance and be more competitive.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree with you 100%. We need some sort of an overview kind of a training for even HR professionals, that they understand at least the basics of supply chain. They need not become an expert, but they should know the
Right.
basics. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
So what ideas do you have on how HR can use this insight?
Well, I think that they will be able to question existing employees, conduct surveys, get a better understanding of who is ready for more training, who's interested in more training. I know that you have faced this as much as I have. You get people in a classroom who are there simply because somebody's manager has told them to be there, right? And they have no real motivation. And on the other hand, there's probably other people in the company who would love to have that opportunity, love to know more. So HR can, by virtue of discussions and surveys with employees, get a better understanding of who wants to advance, who wants to know more, and maybe the others would find a micro credential more to their advantage. Maybe not a whole certification course and no exams and things of that nature, but enough knowledge to be able to interact with others in the company and provide value.
Yep, actually, we also face this kind of a challenge, and we also often, encourage HR to do some sort of a skill map and find out the gaps, and do some sort of an analysis, create a career path for individuals, and then I think that's the best way to come back and say we need these trainings. So that's the best way.
Yeah. Yep,
It requires some
absolutely.
effort. It requires some effort and time. But it really helps.
It really does. Just my own personal experience. It was when I was very young and in manufacturing and wanted more knowledge. The mindset of that company was, no, we were only going to spend money on our supervisors or managers. We're only going to send them to training. And there I was dying to know more. And I would hear these supervisors say, oh, I have to go take this, inventory class. I don't even want to be there, and I'm never going to pass the exam. And so I had to plunk down my own dollars to get that education. The people who want it were the ones that are going to sail through, they're going to pass exams, and then they're going to come back to the company and apply what they're learning. And that's the real key to that return on that investment for their company, is not just to have somebody go take the training and say, yeah, they passed and they have a certification. If they're not going to apply it, then that's money wasted by the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with a few of our corporate clients also, we have created a methodology that at the end of the training, we do some small project, some actual real projects, and we actually monitor and check, what is being done and what benefits it brings to the company.
Absolutely.
So
That is
absolutely.
absolutely the way to help those companies see the benefit of their training dollars. And even more than that is to get the value out of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, are there other functional areas apart from HR that are overlooked also when it comes to supply chain training?
I think so too. I think that IT professionals, accounting, again, they may not need a full certification, but a basic course or just an overview of supply chain, the challenges, sales and marketing. You and I could talk all day about how sometimes sales and marketing has no clue as to what's going on over there in manufacturing, and that disconnect is going to cause them to not fully understand what the company can provide in value, and vice versa. Having sales and marketing invested in this training and interacting with others, then we on the manufacturing side, the supply side, get a better understanding of what are the order qualifiers and order winners of today's customer. So it's that integration between all departments in the organization that are so critical for an organization's continued survival and success.
Absolutely. And I think it will help all the functions, at least understand what other functions do, what challenges they face, and why they do it. I have often seen, sales complaining about operations complaining about procurement complaining about accounting. So,
Yeah.
but when you have a little bit of a training, when you have this cross-functional team, sit into a class and have some discussions, it really helps. It
It
really, people
real
start understanding. Yeah.
it really, really does. I remember in my days of managing a warehouse, the sales and marketing people would come out to the warehouse as if they were entering the twilight zone, and they would look at the warehouse employees like, they were scary individuals. And warehousing and logistics and transportation of today is not dirty grunt work.
Yeah.
That is the real key to an organization's competitiveness and success, is how well they can manage that, what we call the last mile, right? Getting the product out the door, getting it through the supply chain, getting it in the hands of the customer. So again, we need all of the individuals in the organization and in the extended supply chain.
Yep. I think the environment has changed a lot as compared to, what we were used to about 40 years back.
Yes,
A lot of change,
absolutely.
a lot of change. So,
Yeah.
but actually, when we talk about these kind of workforce development, how can this be managed financially?
It's
Wouldn't
another.
decision makers be quite concerned about the cost? I think that's the one biggest thing about the budget.
That's absolutely true, Ravi. That is a big concern, but I think that comes down to recognizing that when it's perceived as a cost, that's exactly how we feel. And why should we spend this money? The other side of that is to think about this is an investment that's going to create a return on investment by new skills, new mindsets, new thinking, more of a holistic supply chain perspective. Every once in a while, I still will get some decision makers say, well, what if we train them and they leave, right? And the opposite of that is terrifying. What if we don't train them and they stay? And now we are stagnant. We do not learn anything new or different. We do not improve ourselves. And if we're not improving ourselves in today's age, we're moving backwards, right? We're going to go like the dinosaur and like the typewriter. We're going to be extinct.
That's right. That's right. I think this fear has been there, all the time. Even when I started in my career, what if we train and people leave? So that's the fear, I think that's been there all the time. And
There's other mindsets that go along with that. There's the thought that when a person has an education or they learn something new and they bring it into the company, they stretch that company, right? And so even if they do leave, they leave behind a knowledge that stays within the company. Right? The company benefits, even if they do pick up and leave in 3 to 5 years, they have brought new thinking into the organization, which is critical because you and I both know about what is referred to as the half-life of knowledge, right? The way that for instance, the way inventory is managed today in progressive companies completely different than the way you and I managed inventory 30 and 40 years ago. The concepts are the same. The importance of inventory management is still the same, but the tools, the techniques, the approaches are completely different, which is why I love teaching as much as I do, is because I learn as much from the students as I share with them, right?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I think, over the period of time, I have seen here, there are a lot of companies who used to sponsor employees for membership, for certification, for education. That has reduced, that has gone down. And companies now expect more employees or the individuals to invest in their career, invest in their training and certification, and not ask for sponsorship. I have seen that change.
Yeah. Yeah. And to that, I would say that if you're really serious about your supply chain career, invest in yourself. Go ahead. If you have to, if that's the only way that you can acquire the knowledge is to put down your own money to do it, then go ahead and do it. Because as I said to you, I had to, years ago, I had to invest in myself. And at the time, I was very fearful about it. It was taking money out of the family budget that, was going to create somewhat of a hardship on the family until I was through that training. I can't even tell you what the return on that investment has been. Even the memberships in ASCM and the networking, it has paid me back so many times over.
I think that froze there.
Yeah, we froze.
Yeah, I just call and check with him. I think he would have to leave and join back again.
Okay.
In the meanwhile, why don't we open it up to the audience? If they have any questions at this point, you can feel free to ask Maryanne. Just
Sure.
unmute
Yeah.
yourself and ask, or probably if you want to put it in the chat box, you can do that too.
Not seeing anything in the chat box.
Sorry, I'm back again. I think, can you hear me? Yeah, there are some disruption.
Yes, there was a screen freeze and we can see you.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear?
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
great. Sorry about that. There was some disruption. Yeah, so I think we were talking about, investment, people should do their own investment into these certifications. So let's discuss the employees themselves. Why would a person with a degree or a supply chain certification consider more courses? Sometimes people come to us and say that I'm already an MBA in supply chain management. Or sometimes they say that I have so many years of experience and why should I invest in certification?
That's a really great question, Ravi, and I hear that. People ask me these questions too, I've got this, I've done that. Why do I have to learn more? And it's like, because the world around us is changing and the technologies are changing and the ideas and concepts are changing. We should never be tired of learning. Right? When you stop learning, you start dying. When having to do with anything. You mentioned I love to cook, I love to garden. Things change, right? New recipes come along, you try something new. We need to be curious individuals. And if we're going to succeed in a particular company, we need to be curious about the outside learning. We need to be curious about the company itself. If we're going to advance in our careers, we should be going beyond our own department. We should be talking to people in other departments and asking about their jobs. And, what do I do every day that impacts your job? How can I do my job better in a way that'll help you in your job? Be curious. We should all be curious.
Yeah, I think one of the body of knowledge that we cover, at least to an overview level, is the accounting, a little bit of finance, and little bit of even the IT that we cover in our certifications. So this is very important that we actually have a cross-functional knowledge. That's very, very important. Very, very important. And also, I would like to add that, earlier, if we talk about many, many years back, once we left our college, our university, we did not, continuously learn much. But today, I think the environment is completely different, not only for supply chain, but everywhere, be it IT, be it HR, be it finance, be it, whatever. So it's so different. Absolutely. Yeah.
It is, and there was that mindset way back that you just did your job, you just knew about your department, but now we see it's all connected. It is truly a supply chain, right?
Yeah. So this is all true. So it also reminds me of the half-life of learning theories. Can you explain what is the half-life? What we mean by this?
Yeah, it's the theory that over time, what we learned, what was true, what we knew, is replaced or needs to be replaced by new learning, right? Because it ages. That, as I was saying to you, the way we managed inventory and manufacturing 30 years ago is different now, right? And there's the new skills, the new learning. So we have to recognize that what we know is aging out and becoming obsolete and being replaced by new methodologies, new ideas, new technologies that connect that learning. And, I remember, I know you remember doing inventories in facilities and having to go in the freezers or go into the dark places. And now drones go do that kind of work, right? We used to calculate things on paper, and now we go to a computer and we get the information, extract that information out of the computer very quickly. But if you don't know to do that, if you don't know what's out there that can enable your job to be done better, faster, or at least the acquiring of the data, so that and the analytical aspect of that data, we don't have to spend as much time collecting the information. We can spend more time on making the very best decision using that information.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I mean, the environment has changed quite a bit. I mean, it's changed a lot. So what advice you have for someone who is just entering supply chain?
Learn, be curious, network, find a mentor. Those of you listening in who have access to this incredible human being that I'm interacting with today, he is a wealth of knowledge. Seek out a mentor, ask questions, network. It's by virtue of my interaction and meeting people like you, Ravi, that I have a better understanding of the complete world around me, as opposed to just my little corner of the United States. It's by coming to Mumbai and to Kuala Lumpur and to Shanghai that I know more about the world and about my passion, supply chain, right? I was in Barcelona this past spring, and in other elements of Europe this summer and the summer before. It's seeing the world around me and seeing how things are handled differently in different countries that enables me to know more about supply chain in general. So I would say to young people, never stop learning, never stop networking. Find a mentor, learn from them, and then be a mentor to others. I think that sometimes we learn as much by trying to teach to someone else as we do in trying to learn ourselves.
Yeah, certainly. I think teaching is also a good opportunity for learning. I would
It
say that
really, really is.
every time I teach, I learn. Every time I
Yes,
teach, I learn.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And we, you and I, we have the benefit of our grandchildren. Our grandchildren teach us to be curious, right?
Yeah. They teach us more than anybody else.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you know, supply chain world is an ocean. It's really ocean. I think you
Yep.
cannot know enough. There is no way that you will know enough. You know, you still can learn more and more and more and more. It's endless,
Absolutely.
endless, absolutely endless.
Yeah. There's a stack of books right here on this table that I'm going to read that book because there's something in there that I want to know more about, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think we have to continuously learn, upgrade ourselves also
Yep.
at the same time. Yeah. So I read your interesting career journey, but for the benefit of our audience, how did you land up into supply chain management function?
How did I learn?
Yes. And how did you
Yeah.
land there? How did you
How
come
did I
there?
end up there?
Yeah, end up
This
in supply
strictly
chain.
accidental. I didn't go to college. I didn't have a clue in the world of going into supply chain. I was a single mom, and I, went to work in a factory, and I was a material handler. I was the person who ordered the raw materials from the warehouse and brought the finished goods back, and the inventory was never right. And I asked, a million questions about that. And somebody said, go take an APEX course. And I found a whole group of individuals who wanted to talk about supply chain. And at the time, we talked manufacturing like they were separate entities, right? Manufacturing or warehousing or procurement. Now we see it all come together. But that's how I landed in it. It was strictly accidental, and I thank God every day that I did land there because, as we said, it's an ocean of knowledge, and the more you know, the more you want to know, right?
Absolutely. So I think similar thing happened with me. I was out of my university. I was hired by a company for software engineering, not for supply chain. But they put me into supply chain domain. And I said, I don't know anything about supply chain domain. So what do I do? They said, go and take AP certification. So that's how I think
Yeah, absolutely.
I landed there.
Absolutely. And it was the knowledge through the certifications, but the networking, Ravi, the serving at the chapter in the United States, we had the chapters, the volunteer chapters, right? It was what I learned about the different roles, marketing and finance, by taking those roles on. And then I went to the Apex Board of Directors. And again, my skill sets had to change because this was more strategic thinking. Without a college degree, I had no experience or exposure to strategy. So it's through these different roles that volunteer roles, that I acquired knowledge that I would have spent years and a lot of money to acquire in a traditional way, right?
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you a question. If you had to start your journey, career journey all over again, what would you do differently?
I would have taken more courses earlier on. There was a time when I had the two first certifications, and then I thought, I'm set. I don't need to learn anymore. And then CSCP, Supply Chain Professional, came along, and I discovered there was a whole ocean more, as you said, of knowledge. So I would have kept learning at an earlier age, and I would have never stopped, and I would never have stopped networking. I think I did a lot, but I think I should have done more.
Thank you. So what advice you have for the listeners, to the listeners, how can they accelerate their career? So currently, a lot of our listeners probably are, in the middle of their career, maybe some maybe in the beginning, towards the end, but uh, what advice you have for them?
To embrace additional learning, maybe take a micro credential, take a small course in a different area, network with others in the company, ask lots and lots of questions of individuals in other departments to help you understand what is going on in marketing, what's going on in accounting, why does that matter to me, how does it apply to my job. Never stop learning. Never, ever.
Thank you so much, Maryanne. I think I will. I'll have question answer session start. So I'll hand it over to Anistush. So Anistush, if there are any questions from the listeners, you can start asking.
Right. Thank you so much, Ravi sir and Maryanne, for that excellent session. A lot of, I think, a lot of knowledge shared, a lot of past memories shared between you two, and I'm sure it would be good to connect back. So I have a question from a person called Rajesh Kumar. A very nice question. In fact, I had something in my mind related to that too. He's asking, what do you see the future of supply chain in next 10 years? Which part of supply chain will be focused more? So I actually have a follow-up question to that, but I'm not going to ask you. Let me just hear the response. Probably it would be answered in that.
I think digitization, I think embracing of the technologies that we're just starting to scratch the surface on is going to be key to advances because the world is at a faster pace. And so we have to pick up the pace. We have to be able to integrate with our supply chain partners. We have to share information more quickly, not just data, but more information. I think collaboration is going to become more important. I think the building of trust and the interpersonal skills between individuals are going to be critical because the world is not going to slow down. It's going to speed up. We haven't talked at all about sustainability, and I should have, pardon me for that, because I think that all of the elements associated with sustainability are going to become more and more critical. This one and only planet we have needs our protection, and we need to think more about how we can still produce products, create value, but do it in a way with less impact on the planet.
Excellent. So, yeah, please go ahead.
No, I think these are the things that are going to be more critical. I think blockchain is a technology that is going to enable us to strengthen the supply chain, to eliminate some of the risks that we face in terms of fraudulent activities, the assurance that the products that we move around the world are safe, and again, are produced in a way that is sustainable.
Excellent. So I still have my question there. So when you say about technology, is it not important to focus on the process also, or are we going to not consider that process is going to stay constant? For example, instead of MRP, using DDMRP would be a better proposition than going for a technology in MRP. So why not focus on process rather than technology?
I think that process improvements embrace technology. So when I mention technology, I often do think about the IT technologies, but there's manufacturing technologies and process improvements that have to happen, right? We need to bring it together. Right now here in the United States, there's the risk of some port strikes. There was an issue regarding salaries, and the workers got the pay raises that they wanted, but there's still a bumping of the heads between the owners of the organizations and the workers, having to do with embracing of automation. And I understand the fear of the employees that their jobs will be replaced by automation. But it is the wave of the future. So rather than being fearful that my job will be replaced by automation, then that's the time to learn more and learn how to be valuable to the company in the use of the automation. Right? So yes, all processes need to be reevaluated. The way we did something 30 years ago is not the way we're going to do it 10 years from now. And we need to be willing to embrace that.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Maryanne. So I do not have any further questions in the chat box, but if someone wants to ask a question and unmute yourself, please feel free to go ahead. All right. So if we do not have any further questions, I would like to thank Maryanne for waking up so early and joining us for the SCM Talk Show, giving some great insights. Rajesh already says the great session. Thank you so much, Maryanne. Thank you, Ravi sir, once again for being a wonderful host and taking the talk show ahead. Thank you to the audience for joining in. And we are in this third last episode, so we have 2 more episodes remaining in season 5. Stay tuned to our social media pages, especially on LinkedIn, to know about our next speaker, next schedule, which will be in December. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend ahead. Stay safe. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. And everyone have a nice day. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.